Good, good. Excellent. Good to hear. So we're gonna get started. I just want to say right off the bat, it's funny. Like public speaking is extremely nerve-wracking, isn't it? You know, like I'm fine with the camera. I'm fine. You know, throw a costume on me, give me some words, whatever. But this is extremely nerve-wracking. So I'm just gonna name that right off the bat. That I am wicked nervous to talk to you guys today. So just thanks so much. It's not. Yeah, I know. Well, this is it, right? You guys are my friends and colleagues. So I'm really glad that there's a good turnout today, because it's voiceover is something that I sort of geek out about, and I'm passionate about, and I want others to be passionate about. I want this whole province to be passionate about, and so I'm glad that there's a good turnout. I know we have some folks joining us from Edmonton in the simulcast. I don't know if all that technology is working, but welcome up in Edmonton, our friends up there. So I guess I'm going to start with who I was, and then I'm going to talk about who I am. So who I was an actor in this community. I started acting here as a kid. 1985 was my first gig. I started doing Access Network stuff, for those of you that remember Access Network. So I started doing television there and doing some community children's theater, specifically storybook theater I started doing, and oddly, I fell into voiceover. I got a couple of voiceover gigs as a kid and thought it was really cool. So after that, you know, I went to. I'm a loyal Western Canadian and loyal Albertan. I went to U of C here because it was affordable and it was a good program at the time. It was really great. So I graduated in '93. I started working, and so I've been an actor. So I guess that's about 25 years that I was an actor, and mainly on stage. Voiceover was my main thing, but had some really good success on camera as well. Kind of left that for a while, came back to it recently, and then I had a couple of kids, and things changed a little bit in terms of you know, going out of town for work and all that kind of stuff. So I had an opportunity to transition into a full-time gig, which I got excited about, and I took advantage of. So I've been working at 6 Degrees Music and Productions as their voice director and casting director. And it's funny, I started voicing with that group and with a lot of studios in town. Around 2007, I was asked to direct a thing. They needed a freelance director, and so I was asked to direct. And that job kind of really opened up my eyes. Sitting on this side of the glass, it really opened up my eyes to the world a little bit. And I approached the powers that be there at the time and asked if I could run a workshop. And so at that first workshop was I sort of handpicked, you know, 5 people that I thought that they were my theater colleagues, that I thought, oh, these people might be good at voiceover or whatever, and worked with that group and was able to develop my own way of talking about voiceover and translating kind of what I had learned to my colleagues, and also allowed them opportunity to practice on mic and to get some reps on mic and to learn kind of what the industry was about here, and we all benefited from that. And so that's sort of my history around voiceover. And so that's when I started teaching a bunch of voiceover workshops. I started directing a lot, as well as voicing, and started to kind of understand the industry from a lot of different angles. And so that's what brought me here. That's who I am now, is voice director and casting director at 6 Degrees, and you know, I'll still act and still do some stuff on the side here and there, but that's my main gig. Again, I'm going to talk about why I'm not here, or what I'm not doing here, if that makes sense. I'm not here to talk about, I guess, hard truths. You know what I mean? I don't know everything. I don't know everything about this industry. I don't know everything about the industry in Alberta. I don't know everything about everything. So I'm not going to talk about what is, you know, what is a hard, fast rule on stuff, what is I'm not talking about definites. I'm not talking about you should do this, or you have to do this, or don't do that. I'm going to talk about my experience both as an actor in this community, and as we all have, like, we're both in Calgary and Edmonton and all over Alberta, and Canada and beyond, as we all have, right? But I always come back here. And so I'm just going to talk about my experience working at 6 Degrees. Being a voice director and a casting director has really opened my eyes up even more so as I talk and work intimately with agency, with creative directors, with artistic directors, with writers, all that kind of stuff. And So that's what I'm going to talk about, my experience and what I've learned. In Alberta right now, I guess I'm just going to start to talk about what's happening in Alberta in terms of voiceover and what's available to us. So I'll start with Calgary, and then I'll move to Edmonton and talk about what I know about both cities. Calgary is there's a lot of work here. There's opportunity for actors in Calgary to do a lot of voiceover, and that's not just at 6 Degrees. There's several studios in town that all do good work and are all looking to and hoping to kind of grow this industry. So there's opportunity. Those opportunities are a lot of commercial work. So I've been actually quite excited and buoyed by the fact that Calgary has becoming a really good commercial hub, both on camera and voiceover. And I'll talk about how we know those things cross-pollinate, but I'll talk more about that a little bit later on. But there's a lot of opportunity, hey Brendan, there's a lot of opportunity commercially. And it's funny, I deal with a lot, as we all have, with Vancouver and Toronto. But it's funny, I thought, as we compete with those bigger centers, and we do, that we were we were neck and neck and somewhat behind in some ways. I've learned over time that Vancouver, in terms of how we relate to them commercially, is Vancouver's not the commercial hub that we think it is. Calgary is becoming a commercial hub, especially for voiceover. There's great studios here of all kinds that are stealing work from them. Work's not getting as far as Vancouver because we're taking it, and that's exciting, and that's awesome, and that's what I want for all of us, because I want you guys working, not them. So commercially, great opportunities here in Alberta, especially in Calgary, for ACTRA members. Creatively, that's where we sort of lag a little bit. In terms of our creative material, there's always going to be voiceover on camera. There's always going to be in your creative projects, whether it be a series or a movie, there's going to be voiceover, typically voiced by those in the show, but those are opportunities. Where we lack is a little bit in animation. We lack in animation. But where we're starting to pick up a lot is independent podcasting. That has become a huge medium. We lack a little bit audiobooks. And again, I'm going to talk about ACTRA because that's why I'm here. So for you guys, for union members, audiobooks are becoming mainstream, but they're coming down from big production companies. They're coming down from Random House. They're coming down from publications. And I guess I'll talk about more of the specifics about audiobooks later, but I want to just talk about what's available to us. So commercial work, creatively, we have some animation for union members. Typically, it's indie projects that will be on prelay animation. There's podcasting, again, that's increasing. Audiobooks are starting to come here on a union level. And our corporate video, corporate narration, all that kind of stuff, which I kind of liken to commercial, but it's a little bit of a different game. That is a lot of opportunity for us here. Edmonton is a little different in terms of the opportunity. There's a little bit more creative work in Edmonton and a little less commercial. The agencies in Edmonton tend to work with us in Calgary, or sometimes work with suppliers or studios or talent in Vancouver. But there seems to be some more creative stuff in Edmonton. There's obviously CBC has a little bit of a foot in Edmonton with their shows, and also there seems to be a little bit more creativity in terms of podcasts and independent productions that will hire union members in Edmonton more so in Calgary. For commercial work in Edmonton, we find that a lot of folks will come to Calgary for that commercial work. And I'll talk about, again, self-submissions both on camera and on mic are becoming a thing, as we all know. And so we'll talk about that. So a lot of Edmonton talent will self-submit through their agents there or through their agents here. As you guys know, a lot of Edmonton talent will have agents in Calgary. So in Edmonton, on the commercial side, the opportunity lies more so here in Calgary. If you can, I mean, we've all driven up and down the QE2, even to audition. And so to come here to gig is even better. So if you can put yourself out there in terms of self-submitting for auditioning, or be affiliated with a studio in Edmonton, and there are several there, then there's opportunities to work. And gee, over my whole career, I've wanted to try cross-pollinate these two communities a little bit more, Edmonton and Calgary. And so voiceover is one way where we're trying, but I think on camera, both on stage and on mic, I think we can all sort of bridge these gaps a little more and try work together, and that's happening. What I've noticed working with working with 6 Degrees is I've learned that I'm local. I'm a Calgary guy, and I care about this community because I see, there's much like our film production companies here, people want to do the best possible work. And so because of that, they look for the best possible actors. And that's not always here. And so we do reach out, much like production companies do, to go, gee, if we can get that guy or that gal or that talent or that whatever, we will. And so I've noticed over time a bit of a discrepancy between our local talent and how we approach things and how out-of-town talent approaches things. And I want you guys to work. Again, I'm a local, and the more work is here and the better we all are, the more work that comes here and the more work we all get. So a couple of things. I'm used to teaching these sort of things in terms of like we talk a bit, and they're small groups, we talk a bit and then we work. We talk a bit and then we work. Here is just the talking bit. So I'm going to translate into the work a little bit without getting you guys on mic, but I do want to talk about it. So the first thing I want to talk about is, I guess, the realities of life as a voice artist in Toronto and Vancouver. In those two centers, there's a lot of opportunity. With a lot of opportunity becomes a lot of, well, you guys can come in and have a seat. A lot of opportunity comes a lot of auditions. With a lot of auditions comes a lot of confidence and a lot of swagger behind the mic and a lot of fun and a lot of ease and a lot of no pressure auditions. And those translate. So to give you an example, like in those centers, people audition at their agency. They get a call from a production company. The agents get the call, much like ours do. So similar breakdown, a little bit differently. And I'll get into how radio and audio, not radio, audio is cast because it's different. But they'll get this call. They get a spec, much like on camera. They get a spec. Great, cool. They put the call out. The talent goes to their agency, and they're there now. So they go to their agency and they show up, and it's hey, what's your name? Sorry? Stefan. Hey, Stefan, here's a script that we called you for, but also in the time that we called you for that yesterday, there's 2 more. So now you're showing up to your agent, you're auditioning for 3 things with your buddies. So you're at your agency where you're comfortable, you're with colleagues you're comfortable with, you're auditioning 5 to 10 times a week, so if this opportunity doesn't happen, there's another one tomorrow, and another one this afternoon, and another one tomorrow. And as you guys might imagine, that brings a great amount of ease to your auditions. And that ease in your auditions translate as ease of performance, and it's captivating and it's interesting, and those people get hired. And I see it. And I see it happen a lot. And the opportunities in Calgary and Edmonton, because they're fewer, there's a different pressure that people put on themselves in an audition. So there's either a pressure that people put on themselves, so they come in very tight and very rigid and very nervous and scared, to be honest, and aren't able to sort of translate what I know is their natural skill and beautiful talent and all the rest of it into that project. They're stifled. That's one thing I see. The other thing I see is a lack of understanding or a lack of passion about this industry. And that's where I feel that we in Alberta could be better in terms of getting into this industry. And again, I'm going to touch on how we can do that a little bit later. I just want to say what's the difference between us and them? And that is the difference. And that's on a solo piece. And on a scene, it's even a greater discrepancy, because that's what we do best, is act with each other. So they get on mic, right, I'm solo, I'm with my agent, Diana Marie's my agent. Oh, hey, how's it going? Good, we're comfortable. I get on mic, it's easy, I have a lot of experience, it's great. Oh, now I'm acting with Diana Marie, even easier, because I'm an actor, so now it's just doing our thing. They're able to make choices, even in a very intelligent way, ad-lib, in a very respectful way. And they book. Oftentimes people will book together because chemistry, boom, those two, done. And they're in the same town, done. So we need to not only understand this industry, but also become as passionate about voiceover as we are about our plays and our movies and our TV series. And that's where I see that we aren't. The local approach is we're skilled. As you know, we have good actors, we have great talent in this province. What we don't have is people that can translate that talent to the mic. So how do we do that? Okay, so I'm gonna get to our point of difference. So any studio that's in Alberta is competing, starting to compete on this provincial, national, global level. The world's shrinking and technology is shrinking it. So we have access to talent immediately all over the world. And as any production company with budget comes more reach. So the same in audio. So if productions come to studios, 6 Degrees, other studios, and say, you know, we've got this budget, we really want this to be good, this is a national commercial or a national thing, we want to search high and low, we will search high and low. We'll go to Vancouver, we'll go to Toronto, we'll go into the US. And with the US comes, that's 500 million people. That's a lot of talent. And it's very easy for production companies to go, hey, let's put out this audition, and things come flooding back. Nothing but great auditions come flooding back. And the way voiceover casts is by chiseling away the bad to get to the good. So for example, you guys know, let's say, you know, I'm directing a play and people come in and they're auditioning and they're auditioning and they're auditioning, and someone just kind of has the thing, and we've all felt it when we're that person, and we've all maybe been on the other side where we go, you know, that's my Hamlet. That's them. They walked in, they nailed it, they got the right energy, it's great. We know we'll see everyone else, but everyone's got to beat that person, and that's really great. Voiceover chisels away the bad. It's like you're given this big rock of talent, and you're going, no, 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 no. Oh, we're left with these people. And it's very easy and quick to say no. And so for us, oftentimes we slate, we start, it's no. Honestly, man, and it sucks. But that's what it is. And so those people that are experienced at it are entering the level right here. We come in and we go, okay, we falter a bit because we just don't have the reps. So how do we get the reps? So a couple of ways that we can, I guess, improve as a community. You know, I cast every day, and I see the first thing I notice is approach, is sort of personal approach. My friends and colleagues, I'll be talking to people, you know, what are you doing tomorrow? I got a voice thing. It's a voice thing. And there's a bit of a feeling of that it's less than, you know, and there's an assumption that if I can speak English and I can read, you know, and I'm an actor, well, I'm good. You know, and I understand that to some degree, but at the same time, this is a performance medium much like any other that requires a detailed performance and painting with fine brushes and giving of ourselves and investing and bringing what we bring to our other work to this medium. So right off the bat, I encourage my friends, you guys, I guess, change a mindset in terms of voiceover. That within voiceover, and again, guys, it's not just get 3.9% financing on a vehicle. Like, yes, that is, and that's a great supplement to your income. If you invest and start to book these gigs, not only can it be a supplement to your income, if you do well, it can become your income. It can become a really good source of income for you. And that's the goal, right? The goal is to keep working, and the goal is to keep paying our bills. And as I always say to, I teach a lot of young actors, and I say it's so easy to not work as an actor, right? It's so easy to not work. So the things that we can do to eliminate those factors, to try that get a casting director or a director or a agency creative director or the client to spacebar you, and that's like, moving on. You listen, you spacebar, you move on. The more we can do to keep them listening and book, the better. So approach this like you would anything, and that means investing your time in it. So if you get an audition, you get a script, don't slough it off. Do the same work that you would do in a scene. How would you break it down? Would you break it down by, whatever your actor's process is, units and beats, or what are my intentions, or what's my uber objective, or who am I talking to? All the stuff an actor does, do on that. Where am I coming from? Where am I going to? What's my focus? Who am I in this piece? Invest in it, and take the time to have a roadmap. I mean, I know you guys detail your on-camera auditions. I know you do. You might even record yourself and fix your eye line and all that kind of stuff. And you can do the same thing in voiceover. We have phones, we have whatever. You can record yourself, you can listen, you can send it to a thing. Does this sound good to you? Does this sound truthful, believable, like a human? Because the industry has changed. The industry has changed. From the beginnings of audio in the 1940s, it was a middle-aged white dude with a nice deep voice that can deliver a message, and he's the voice of authority and trust in that era. But you guys know now people, not just again, creatively, radio plays, podcasts, all that kind of stuff. We go, oh, I'm able to marry character. I'm able to go, oh, I see this. I see how, oh, I'm playing a murderer in this thing, and it's and I'm attacking this person. Whatever. This is the scene. I'm able to invest as an actor a little bit more. When you see, oh, announcer, and then an offer or a thing, I think it's a little bit tricky for us to go, okay, how do I invest in this as an actor? But that's what we have to do, because companies are marrying voice and image to a brand. That's what they want to do now. The United States is still a little differently, and it's tricky for us as union members to work in the US. I just lost my train of thought. Talking about the commercial, likening a voice to a brand. The U.S. is very much still a hard sell country. They get on the TV commercial, the audio in the TV commercial, or the radio, whatever, and it's push this, come on down to whatever, and get this and get this and get this. Canada's soft sell. Canada is, we want to be talked to, not at, and we want to feel, and brands and companies want to feel like there's trust, and there's a human being behind this person talking. That's what we want to achieve, and you can't do that if you're coming in and not knowing your approach, not having an approach, not investing in this. You're a generic person. So I teach in workshops, and I'll tell you guys now, is you see announced on your thing, scratch it out and put a name, because you'll immediately start looking for character clues. It's a fascinating thing for actors. So approach it as an actor, not as a voice talent, not as this is my voice doing this gig. Act with your whole body. Invest as an actor. Come in with some choices with a through line. So those industry trends, it's funny, guys, I've seen, so like 10 years ago, it was, yeah, we don't want this talking head announcer anymore. We want someone real. 5 years ago, it was, yeah, we want an actor. We want an actor now. We want someone that can act. Now I've seen, guys, the specs that come through all the time are, like, they literally want someone off the street that can marry a little bit of skill and emotion and whatnot. They really want real people. And I see that that's our point of difference in Calgary, you guys. So again, and I'm speaking as candidly as I can here, there's a pocket of our community that voiceover that can compete on a national level. And they do really, really well because they're not talking heads, because they're good actors. And so we have our friends and colleagues in Vancouver and Toronto who are auditioning a lot. They're loose, they're whatever, they're confident, they're slick, they got swagger, they're making choices. But they're not actors. So this is why I see our opportunity here. There's been a crack in the armor in this industry that allows us to move in. And this is what clients want. When I hooked up with Tina, we did the Actra Voice Initiative, and many of you may remember it, a couple years ago, where we were like, hey, Actra members, you can get like discounts and good discounts to train and do all that. We really started to see a change. And then we didn't. We started to get there, and then we faltered. And so when I talk about this investment in terms of getting into the industry, and so your approach is as an actor, you don't want to be this talking head person. You want to bring all your natural ability. And how do we do that? Is we practice and we train. And those of you that are theater actors or have been theater actors primarily, keep in mind that you've done probably a 2 to 4 year theater school program. You've gone to U of A, you've gone to U of C, you've gone to National Theater School, you've done your thing, you've paid your dues, you've read 1,000 plays, you've invested in it, you've gone through it. So by the time you're doing your first audition, you're already kind of skilled, you're already pretty good. Same thing on camera. You've gone to film school or you've taken some workshops, of which, again, in this town, there are a lot, as you guys know. There's a lot of places to train and places to train from. Voiceover is no different. There's many places to train. TuneVox, Voice Spot, 6 Degrees, other people, private coaching. There's places to train. There's people to learn from. And I encourage you guys to do that because it makes a huge difference knowing what it is you're doing on a very detailed level. And I see folks on camera or on stage that I go, man, they are brilliant. And then we get them on mic and it just doesn't translate. And subsequently the other way. There's actors that I see on stage and on screen just because it's a subjective medium, and I go, and then get them on mic and it's like, boom, that's their medium, or they find their niche, or they find their thing. And so invest in it, guys. I really can't encourage you enough to seek out training for voiceover. And of course, I want you to train with us, but there are other places. And again, guys, I'm a casting director, so train other places, come back to me, awesome, so I can hire you. I don't mind that at all, because I want you guys to work. Remember when I started doing workshops, my dad was like, what are you doing? You're cutting off your own legs, you're cutting off your own work, and I don't believe that at all. I really believe that if we're all good, and you guys know this from our film community, when we're all good, we get work here. And when we get work here, we all benefit. And it's funny, guys, you know that our film industry and our voiceover industry are so closely linked. And this is what folks don't realize, is that creatively, there's studios here that float their boat doing ADR and looping for series and whatever, and that's awesome that we have that here. 50, 20 years ago, I got flown to Vancouver to do ADR. Now, that was an awesome day in Vancouver. Yeah, you feel like a star. You get flown to Vancouver, you do some ADR, you come up, whatever. But I'd rather do it here and go home and sleep in my own bed, and have people I know here that I can also go, hey, we're a buddy, we got a beer together, that also is sustaining their business in Alberta. And so we can have that all here. On the commercial side, same thing. The more commercial work that comes here on camera, the more commercial work that comes here on voiceover. That's just what it is. And we're it's a funny thing because we often will encourage places to have their projects, if they're not already, go union because we have a better access to talent. But with that is the double-edged sword of having a better access to talent all over. Same as our film. It's a low-budget thing. We want to cast locally. Great, that's awesome for us. And that happens in voiceover too. Great, and we all populate that cast. We all feed our families. We're all happy. But as soon as it's a big budget thing, now it opens up, and now we're competing on a national level. And I want us to compete on a national level on voiceover, not just on camera. There's a particular agency, actually 2 agencies in Texas, that when we go into the States, when we're casting into the States, I go to. There are these 2 random agencies in Dallas, and I've found them, I've sought them out. There's 1,000,001 agencies and talents, whatever, in the United States. But I found this niche, these people who don't sound like they're from Texas. I was shocked. I'm like, you guys sound like you're from Alberta. And so I reach out to them, and there's no reason why Dallas can't reach out to us. Right? And this is what I want to try create, is that we have our point of difference in Calgary is us. It's not, yes, we have amazing producers, and obviously you guys know we have our amazing crews here. That was largely a reason why productions come here, is for our crews. Whoops. Test. But it's also because of our talent. You guys know, so let's take, for example, Fargo, right? Fargo, we're all so proud of Fargo because we watched season 1 and went, look at all of us. And it was if you think like I do, I looked at that show and went, man, it was the townspeople that won that 2nd season. It was the creation of that world that created that show, and that's us. And there's no reason why we can't work on that national level on as a voice actor. So train. Outside of taking classes and training, how can we train on our own? And there's a couple of tips that I've found that people have moved people forward. Reading out loud. Reading out loud, to me, is one of the greatest things you can do to practice as an actor on your own. It's tough to manufacture different scenes on our own, or we're not going to act to a mirror or to our cat and stuff. Sometimes it's tricky. Reading out loud is a skill that, especially for voiceover, just starts to train this eye, ear, brain, mouth connection. You're able to scan ahead, make pre-choices, all that kind of stuff, and it really affects your skill. So that's one thing you can do at home, regardless. Like, you're not spending any money, you're not spending any time other than your own, reading your own novel that you're going to read anyway. Read it out loud. It's funny, audiobooks are something that, just to flip around, and I really apologize that I'm not necessarily a sequential thinker. Coupled with a little bit of nerves, and I'm all over the map, man. But audiobooks are something that are becoming a thing, but folks want to. So I get a lot of interest of people going, hey, I want to do audiobooks. I want to do audiobooks. I want to do audiobooks. And we're getting we're getting our requests from Random House, and they're sort of not big time writers, but they're invested. And it's almost like folks want to sprint. Like, they want to be able to, they want to be able to do a marathon before they can sprint, Like, audiobooks are a big deal. It's a grind, it's a lot of hours, and so reading out loud, the ability to speak and read and do all that is paramount. So the more you read out loud, the better. And that's going to help you on short form anything, but long form especially, cold read auditions, anything like that, read out loud. The second thing is we have the internet at our disposal, and we still have print magazines. And in all of that stuff are tons of copy that you can use to practice. So we have these phones here that you can use to go, okay, you pick up a magazine, it's crazy. Any magazine, especially like fashion magazines, seem to be like 90% ads. There's not a lot of articles in there. And so you open it up and you're like, you know, I don't know, double your lashes with Maybelline or whatever it is, right? That's, I'm just thinking of, and that print copy is radio copy, or it could be copy on their TV commercial, the voiceover on their TV commercial. Use it. It's free material. You're just like, great, look at this magazine. Boom, open it up, practice. Go on your phone. And it's funny, guys, on the topic of practice and on the topic of, I guess, this community and its investment in voiceover, I've taught voiceover workshops since 2007. And I'm extremely proud at the people that have seen success in the voiceover industry through the workshops that I've taught. But every single workshop I've taught, every single one, since 2007, I have said at the end of every workshop, I don't believe workshops stop at the end of a workshop. And now we're colleagues and friends. And I like you, and I want you to work. So use me. I'm like, take a month, and then voice something on your phone, and send it to me, and I'm happy to give you some feedback on it. And so over the years, I've probably said that to 500 people. One person has taken me up on that. Which you know, on one hand, I go, well, okay, I get it. I understand that a month after a workshop, it is a big ask. I would find it hard too to go, oh, on a random night where you're watching Netflix or whatever, to go, oh, I'm actually gonna look in a magazine and go into my closet and find some isolation and get out my iPhone and record this and send it to Christian and get some feedback. I get that that might be a weird thing. And I get that it might be a weird well, I assume that people get busy and do I send it and all the rest. Like, I totally get all that. You know, I would find it hard to do too. I'm just shocked that there hasn't been more people that have wanted to do this enough to take me up on that. And it's funny because the one guy that did went way too far. It was like it was like 10 things, and you know, one of the rest. But what's funny is obviously I did my best to help because I was excited that someone was invested in it and wanted to do it. So I was like, hey, you've sent me 10 things here. Give me a week or two, whatever, and you know, and so I noted them, and then another 5 came back, and I noted them, and then it slowly dissipated, right? Another 2 came, and I noted them, and 1 came, and I noted them, and this individual does pretty good in this business. Anyhow, I guess that's what I want to indicate. Like, I want us all to invest in it, and the more we do, the better we are. And I've seen it, guys. I've seen the results from consistent training and practice to consistent booking. It's funny. I was talking to, you know, I'm always thinking about how do I become a better actor and how do I help others become a better actor. And you know, the only thing I can think of always is to encourage people to make better choices, right? And so if you're well versed in this medium and you know sort of what your voice does, you know the level of truth and believability on mic, because it's different, guys. It's different. You know, I always talk about the BS meter being pulled so tight on mic. And this is where we sometimes falter, is we get out there and we blow the roof off the joint. Not that it's big, not that it's whatever. It's just like, I guess, not that the intentions are big or whatever. It's just we don't know the level of subtlety for that medium. And so that's something you got to practice and learn. And you won't learn until you start to do it and hear it and go, oh, yeah. You know, these are king and queen of our senses, guys. We see it, we believe it. Like Diana Marie's on stage and she has all the proper markings of crying and she's doing her thing, and I go, wow, that's awesome performance. Well, you translate that on mic, how do you put that right just here? You know? And that takes some push and pull, where we tend to want to whitewash a fence a little bit, where others are, you know, painting with a very fine, detailed brush. And that translates. So when you go to other studios to audition, when you come to 6 Degrees to audition, work on your stuff. You know, read the thing beforehand. Have a take. Have some. Oh, gee, I'm gonna take my line ending here. Like, have a roadmap for yourself. Invest in it like you would whatever. But then a couple of things. One is try and make a connection with a scene partner. You know, because of our fear, I've noticed that folks are very, and it's funny because even in the most creative, light material, you know, we're doing, and we've done a ton of, you know, radio plays and whatnot for WordFest and different things, and we're in talks with some exciting, like, creative, collaborative opportunities with some theaters here and whatever. So there's going to be more and more creative opportunities for ACTRA members within the next year or two, I'm really hoping. But make a connection with your scene partner. You know, because these auditions are coming at us from bigger centers are loose and fun, ours seem really scared and rigid. In that a lot of our the auditions we get are, you know, I say my line and you say your line and then I'll say my line, and then you say, because we don't want to be rude or something, or we don't want to, you know, play the scene, guys. Play the scene. Make a connection with your scene partner and play the scene like you would on camera. For these, the medium of voicing and on camera, where they're the two mediums that are the most closely linked in terms of, like, being on stage or being on camera, all this kind of stuff. On mic and on camera are very closely linked. It's that level. I mean, again, guys, picture the audience is at least you know, where Brendan is or whatever in a play, and then we're on camera and we're here. Well, on mic we're here, right? But anyhow, invest. Like, play with your partner. We see so much. It's funny, guys. People get in the booth, and they're like. And then I go, hey, how's it going? They're like, hey, how's it going? And everyone's loose and stuff like that. Do that already. Do that right away. The last thing is, in terms of, like, your solo audition, and this is a tip. Slate, voice, same tone. Same tone. There's a lot of folks, and people do it from out of town, is that the slate is a branding thing, or it's a Nike swoosh. It's your thing. It can be, sure, if you want it to be, but it's more so about the performance. And so, you know, much like on camera, let's say I walk into an audition and I'm well, whatever the example, copywriters, creative directors, artistic directors are looking for the person, the guy, the gal, not the actor that can play the guy or the gal. You know what I mean? And so if you can come in, like I always give the example, I'm going to slate and I'm like, Christian Goutsis, kids are dying all over the world and whatever. That now they know my level of acting, right? They know my level of acting. In animation, beautiful. They're going to want to know, hey, here's me, Christian, and here's me, the character. Awesome. Commercially, in creative materials that's more of a dramatic nature, they want to know that you are that person. That's you. So you slate and you voice. And I see that gets listened to. Because you go, well, gee, they're already there. There's from slate to voicing is a seamless line, and so there's no jarring aspect for someone listening. So that's a great tip. The more you can bring a human element to it, the better. There's a funny thing about voiceover, guys. We talk about this all the time. There's a really good pocket where I feel Calgary is right now, and I want to stay. I just want to get more people involved and investing in it. You're starting out as a voice actor. You're sort of delightfully clunky in some ways. You know what I mean? You go, well, gee, that's a real person. They don't have any polish, and they're not like mic savvy and whatever. But it's tough to book that person. And then you start to, I guess, get into the medium a little bit, and you understand what your voice can do, and you can understand the medium, and then you're in this sweet spot because you're a real person with some mic technique, you know? And it's funny, mic technique is a little bit of a misnomer. I'm always a big proponent, like, it's a sound engineer's job to make you sound good. Make sure that, nothing weird. It's your job to perform. It's your job to perform. So But there is a bit of breath and mic technique, whatever involved. So you start to get into this sweet spot where you're a real person, and you've got some mic technique, and you are awesome. And that's where you want to stay. And the way you stay there is by staying humble to your craft, and by constantly working yourself as an actor and investing in the piece as an actor. Because when I cast, it's never about how you sound. I think you guys would be shocked to find out the type of voices that book. And the type of voice, it's not always these chestnut tones and, you know, alto tone females and really deep voices. Like, it really runs the gamut based on performance. It's all about performance, and I'm encouraged every day by that, because I believe that, and I want to know that performance and truth always wins. The truth always wins, and a good performance wins the day, and that it keeps getting proven to me, which is exciting. It's not the best voice wins. The best actor wins. So you're investing as an actor, and you're booking and stay there, because what can happen in voiceover is the love of yourself. I want us all to love ourselves. I just mean that we get into the love of our voice, and I've seen actors go from bit clunky, you know, to being in this really great sweet spot, to suddenly now they sort of have a different tone, and now they say hi to me like this, and now they're like, "Hi, Christian, how you doing?" And then they get on mic and they're like, "Hi, my name's Christian," and now suddenly every line ending is this, and they become, it's almost like Shakespeare moving into, like, you start to speak in a British accent. It's no, you know, stay true to it, stay humble invest as an actor, not as a voice, and you will continually be in the mix, if not book, because you're bringing a human element to something that is not human. Yeah?
Well, I'm just curious, do you think that our agents know that?
That agents know that?
That they're looking for, because we had this discussion at the AGM too about talents, and why it seems like some people are like, oh, we've been through all the talent, there's no more talent left, but clearly there's a ton of talent, and I feel like maybe a lot of us don't get an opportunity because, like, not necessarily all agents, but some agents are just like, they're almost doing a bit of your casting decisions before they're even submitting. But so that's why I'm wondering, like, do they know that they're looking for more real people and not the altos and the...
Okay, this is interesting. So just for Edmonton, because we don't have, so the question was, what was the question? The question was, do agents know what the industry wants?
Exactly.
So do agents know that the industry is looking for real people and whatever? I think so. And I guess that's, so really good question though, that also I forgot to mention how, because voiceover is cast differently. There's no breakdown. There's no submission. So it's not like I put out a, you know, because we cast on camera too. We put out a breakdown, great. Everyone submits, this person, this person, this person, and away you go. Voiceover is different in that anyone casting VO in this town isn't putting out a breakdown and accepting submissions. They're asking for specific people. And so if we don't know that a particular person either does voiceover or is interested in voiceover or whatever, then we don't know to ask for them. And so that, I guess, is on somewhat on the talent and agent side to make companies aware of the talent's desire, skill, availability, all that kind of stuff. So, because if we get, let's say, because I have an intimate relationship with all the agents in Alberta, and if I get an email or a phone call saying, "Hey, so and so's interested in doing voiceover. Hey, might you consider these people?" I absolutely will, because we're constantly looking for new people. We're constantly looking to recultivate the talent and to bring in people in an effort to grow the business, you know, to grow the talent here and to grow everything. So, if we don't know, we don't know. And much like anything, I mean, we're all guilty of the old standbys too. We're all guilty going, oh, those are the people that do it. Those are the people we'll call. But again, it's only because I believe that we've been burned a bit, you know, in terms of about people not bringing it. And it's funny, guys. I want to talk, I guess, about training and one more thing about training and also about the voiceover industry, how it's unique is training too. You know, I find that we will take. And I guess I didn't finish that thought, is we take 4 years of a theater program or 2 years of whatever, or we take multiple film acting classes, and I have noticed that people take one voiceover class. They take one, and then go, all right, I'm good, get me out there, which is Fair, and I'm not looking for people to constantly spend money and take classes. I was an actor for 27 years. I know how far a dollar goes, and I know investment in classes and whatever. So I get all that. But I also get that industry trends change, sensibilities change, we change, and so consistent training is key. It really is, and consistent practice is key, much like we do on our other mediums. We just need to invest the same way. And when we do, we see success. Also, it's a different medium, and like, let's say you audition for a play, you don't get in. You don't get into the show at Theatre Calgary. You're banging your head against the wall. You're never getting cast at Theatre Calgary or ATP or Vertigo, and you can't do that. But there's other theaters to work at. And if you're not going, okay, well, gee, I'm not hitting professionally in theater, even though like I do professional film, I'm not, well, okay, well, I can still go do a show at Morpheus and Storybook and still fulfill that in myself and still cut my chops that way. Similarly in a film, you don't get in the series and you're like, well, okay, I didn't get that lead or that principal or that actor, but I did that one day player, or I can still do background. I can still get on that thing, be on set, make connections, make a wage, like all that stuff. There's trickle down roles and things that we can do in both of those mediums. In voiceover, there isn't. There's the gig, and that's it. Yes, sometimes we can bring you in for Walla or different things like that, and sure, we do, but it's not the same. And so that's why I guess our laser, like we need to be focused on that prize and training for that prize, because there's no other prize in voiceover. It's the gig or not. Often, I find that people don't seek feedback. I know that people on camera and in stage will seek feedback for an audition. We'll email their agent, and hey, how did Jackie think I did? How did Rhonda think I did? How did Sue think I did? You know what I mean? In voiceover, we rarely get a call for feedback. In fact, never. I think people audition and then they go, fuck it. You know what I mean? There's this weird like, I'm done. And there's no sort of like, gee, can I get better? Can I improve if I just invest and go, what was it of my performance that didn't land? And we're more than happy to say, okay, well, it was this and this and this. Great, now you know, and now you can improve that. But you can't improve it if you don't know. Self-submissions are becoming a big thing. As you guys know on camera, they're becoming like the first audition now. And similarly with voiceover, it's a funny thing. And as you guys know, they're hard. Self-submissions are hard in that we're hard on ourselves. It's different having someone go, no, that's good work. Thank you very much. And you leave going, okay, that's great work, good. But when you can watch it over and over and decide for yourself, right? So for voiceovers, the same thing is, again, I'm aware of like, it's billable hours. You don't want to spend your whole day doing a self-submission. You know what I mean? And you don't want to. You also don't want to do one and go, I'm done. You want to find the right thing to send. A couple of things on self-submissions on voiceover is always err on the side of subtlety. That's a big one. Is I find that people come in and audition and they have one approach, but the self-submission approach is like way over the top. Very often. So always err on the side of subtlety on your self-submission. And it's funny, guys, I find in like not creatively. Creatively, people tend to have more of a vision or a specific vision in terms of here's the spec, here's who I'm looking for. So any creative stuff, we're able to bring in people and lock in, and then we're away to the races. Commercially is a bit of a different thing. Sometimes, or often I've found that a spec is put out there, and then they lean to the beige, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? What they put out there, they don't necessarily exactly want. They want a subtle version of that. So always err on that side of subtlety. And again, I've said this to some folks, and then they I guess like swing the pendulum a little too far, and it becomes like nothing, But listen back to yourself and have the same sort of sensibilities you would on camera. Listen back and go, do I believe that? Do I believe it? Because even if they're looking for something crazy character-wise, they still want a human being. They still want to believe it, that it's a real person. They don't want a caricature. Label it properly. In fact, label it at all. You know, I get nothing but like new recording, new recording, new recording, new recording, and that's tough. That's tough, especially when we're getting 300 that are really well labeled and really clear, and I'm able to go, oh, great, boom, 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 and then we get new recording, new recording, new recording. It gets tedious. So on your phone, I know it can be tricky, but just figure out how you can relabel stuff on your like Voice Recorder Pro or your regular voice memo or whatever it is. If you're using an exterior thing, just figure out how to relabel it. Even if you dump it on your computer to relabel then send, it helps. Slate your name, obviously. I wouldn't get too much into, hi, my name is Christian Goutsis, and I'm with Details Talent here in Calgary, and I'm auditioning for the spacebar. You know, a lot of times if you have too much preamble, you've auditioned. You've already auditioned. They're like, oh, gee, I don't really like this guy. You know, yeah. Just name. I find for my purposes, and others might different, but name, because your agent will submit you. Like, I know the project. I'll know where to find you because your agent will submit you, or you'll have submitted yourself. So I'll have your email address. So just your name is great, just so I can match the file to you. Character, I wouldn't. Only if it's a two-scene, like if you're self-submitting a scene, you know, you might want to be like woman one if it's two women or whatever. But typically, I'm gonna see what role you're reading, and that's fine. So typically, just name. Yes, sir. How do you spell your last name? How do you spell my last name? Yeah. Goutsis. Yeah, so err on the side of subtlety, only slate your name, please label it properly, and get it to your agent earlier than you think you should. You know, that's always a thing. I know on camera we do that. It's like, let's do it 2 and 1:50, and expecting that your agent's like right there going, yep, you got it, you know. So do send it a little bit early. Demos. So demos are a thing that I get asked about a lot. In terms of, do we need a demo? What's on the demo? What's whatever? And there's a couple of different things with demos, because there's different sort of demo requirements for different mediums. In terms of like animation is different. It's funny, animation is a thing. I'll get to that in a second. So demos are tricky. I never know what to say about demos. I'm so 50-50 about demos because I see them work. I see people book by demo. I see the ability to send demo that is really helpful, and it can get you out of this market. You can also work out of this market. I'll want to talk about that more at the end. But so having a demo is a good thing. On the flip side of a demo, I've been really burned by demos, you know, because a demo is often, or can be in this medium, a manufactured thing, or a thing that stays around too long. So like, I had this situation a couple of weeks ago where we cast a woman by demo out of Toronto. We get into the thing, and she speaks, and immediately everyone in the room looks at me like this. Because she sounds completely different. And what they were chasing was like a 10-minute, not even a 10-second chunk on her demo, like just this 10 seconds that they liked. And she couldn't recreate it. The demo was 12 years old, and she hadn't voiced in 2 years. But we still had an agent, and still whatever, and still was available to. So demo got submitted, she got chosen, got in a session. And it was a nightmare because she couldn't match what she had done 12 years earlier. So make sure your demo's up to date if you're going to get one. I'm a big fan of trying to grow your demo organically, so that if you audition, you book something, there's your demo. That gig's your demo. Because I send auditions all the time, and I find that auditions book more than sending a polished demo. It's a funny thing. Often because clients want to hear one specific thing. So if they hear an audition from you and they go, oh, that's great. But they hear a demo where you're like doing a bunch of different things, they kind of go, well, okay, yeah, I can hear them doing a bunch of different things. But they're not looking for versatility. They're looking for someone that's right for their thing. And so I find often sending an audition that someone's done at our studio books more than a demo. But make sure it's up to date. Try your best to grow it organically. don't spend too much money on it.
How much is too much?
That's a tricky question. I mean, it's funny. So, I mean, I can't speak for other studios because I don't know their rates. But I will know for 6, I'll say this: we rarely do a demo just for people like, hey, I want a demo, like off the street kind of thing. It's not like you guys are off the street, but just going, hey, I want a demo. So I go, okay, great, let's come on in and do a demo. I find that very hard to do. I find that I want to work with you. I want to work together to go, okay, let's work together, and then let's work on a demo now that once I know you. I know what you're capable of and know what you're not capable of, and how can we shape the demo specifically for you, and what's going to give you the best chance. So anyhow, that's kind of how we work demos. But I mean, to give you a figure, Diana Marie, I don't think we've ever charged, I think $450 was the max we've ever charged for a demo. That's us. That's us. A demo should be a reflection of you, ideally, not all the wacky things you do. Now this is commercial and creative. Animation is different. Animation, obviously, you want to show character. You want to show what you are capable of voicing. So that's a different demo. That's a totally different demo. And it's funny, animation is one area locally where we lack. That's a big, on a local Calgary and Alberta level, that's where I desperately want us all to be better. I want companies to come here. I don't know why, Winnipeg has animation. Halifax does a lot of animation for CBC, and they have great animation houses there, and they tap into that amazing East Coast talent. Well, we have amazing talent. We just don't have anywhere to take it right now. Us union members, we just don't. And so, we're trying to grow that. Like Red Deer College has started an animation thing as part of their media arts program, which is great. And I'm hoping that we can sort of offer some, I'm trying to offer like opportunity for animators almost in kind to just get them to stay. Because again, an animator is going to leave, and I don't want them to leave because I want more work here for you guys. So animation is a thing where it's tricky. That happens more so. Vancouver's an amazing animation town. Toronto's really good too, and so Calgary's not as up to snuff yet on the animation. We've seen little hits, little pockets of it, but nothing sustainable. We're trying. I was going to say, one of the points I wrote down is how the industry feeds itself. And I've talked about that a little bit, but the more we strive for, the more commercial work we get here, the more independent work we do. The fact like your web series, your podcast, like your independent projects, do them because A, it helps us on the film side, but also on the voiceover side. Most everything has a voiceover attached to it. Whether that be a TV show, a TV commercial, a podcast, and a web. Now, we're doing radio, but also now there's Spotify, like there's tons of all that stuff, corporately, and it all feeds itself. So you guys as independent producers on your own projects and independent directors on your own projects, consider voiceover as part of that. Try help the industry help itself on all mediums, so that if you're creating a project, consider some voiceover in that project, or consider a voiceover promo or anything to do to try feed all aspects of the industry. I'm going to pause for some questions. If you guys have any questions right now, I'm going to pause. Yeah.
I have a question. I heard you mention that our agents, you go out and say, I know somebody and I want them.
Yes.
So how do we get you to know us if our agent is not being made aware of? Because you're not going out and doing a general casting call.
Okay, good point. So we do general casting calls, and it's funny. So because I'm 2 years as casting director. So the question was, how do you get you to know me or me to know you if the agents aren't? And it's a great question. And so I'm, 2 years into being a casting director. Like I've come from being an actor, to director. Now I'm casting and directing. It's cool. So, and I don't know everybody, and so I'm trying to grow this, and so we are doing generals coming up in the spring, but also like now that we're here, contact me. I'm going to give you all my email and whatever, and
say, I'm Don, I'm available.
Totally, man. Well, thanks, Don. It's awesome. Nice to meet you, man. That's great. Come on in. No, but that's how it works, right? We meet each other, and I go, oh, gee, Don, for that project, he'd be perfect for that thing, you know. I try be, and I know all the studios in town. Try be generous. Everyone tries to hire low. Everyone tries to reach out and help and do, you know. So I bring new people in all the time. I try offer opportunity all the time. And so if you don't have an agent or your agent isn't contacting me about whatever, then please contact me directly. And it's funny, guys, you know, on the agent thing, and I think, you know, we have great agents here and whatever, but it's funny how, you know, I would encourage your agent to push for you in terms of going, hey, if there's ever any, because sometimes, let's say we'll put out a call, and we want these people. We want A, B, C, D, and from you, G, E, and from you, D, F, and whatever. And we get these, great. And sometimes when folks aren't available, we're not given options, right? We're not going, well, you know, Don's not available, but what about Phil, Peter, Alex, and Jason? You know, and we're like, oh, sure. Well, you know, and so there is that. So I would encourage you guys on your own agency to go, hey, just put me forward. You know, to empower yourself, to talk to your agent, to go put me forward for voiceover, even if I'm not asked for. Because we will accept you. We totally will. Yes, sir?
How many requests do you put through the agents, say, in a month? Because I never get anything from my agent saying that they're voiceover.
Yeah, well, and again, it's because I'm asking, and I'm just talking about me personally, asking for particular people. And if I don't know you, I don't know to ask for you. So, so the question was,
how many a month?
Oh, how many a month?
Yeah.
Like how many gigs do we do a month?
Yeah.
I couldn't even tender a guess. It depends. It goes month to month and week to week. You know, sometimes, I mean, you know, it's funny, guys. Like six gigs particularly, we try reach out and bring in gigs to Calgary from.
How many gigs did you do this week?
6.
Is that out to the agents?
Yep. Yep.
Is that average?
It depends. It's such ebb and flow. You know what I mean? And there's such. It's like everything. Exactly. It really is. You know, it's tough to say. And again, like those gigs. I mean, we also do non-union work, right? So it's not like every gig is a union gig. We try push stuff there because we have bigger access to talent, but not everyone goes there. And so to say the gigs like per ratio is a little tricky. But certainly there is opportunity. We're casting all the time. Sorry, I thought I saw a hand go up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Corey.
Are you doing more self-taped auditions, or do most auditions you have people come into the studio?
Good question. So.
That used to be a real big reason. I mean, you would have thought that nowadays with the technology, you would have to come in, you know, for a 10-second bid, which can be tough to book. I'm wondering what's the actual practice?
Yeah, I mean, I prefer to have people audition because people book better when they audition in studio when they self-submit. So I prefer to audition people. Our clients prefer audition people. And you know what? Some studios just, I'm assuming, like book by demo. Like we'll audition by demo, and we do too sometimes if the turnaround's really quick. But I will always prefer you come in, even if it's a 1-2 word thing. I'll always prefer you come in. But having said that, you know, now we're opening up our casting a little bit more because of technology. So, you know, we block off some studio time to run some auditions, and if we go, okay, you know, in that hour we can see 20 people or whatever, great. If 5 of those people don't show up, we get them to self-submit. But if we go, well, gee, we want to see a few more, we'll get these people to just self-submit, you know? And so it really goes gig by gig, Gordon, and really, like, you know, the preference is to always have people come in and audition. And so it's funny, for the folks in Edmonton, I was going to say, like, you know, the 2 things. One, you're always welcome to drive down to audition, which I've driven up to Edmonton to audition a ton, especially for plays. you're always welcome to come audition, and you're always welcome to self-submit, as long as you can work as a local in Calgary. Come down to Calgary and book to gig in Calgary. And it's funny because there's folks that have moved from Calgary or from Calgary to Edmonton that still come down or will audition down here. And then there's folks that I know theatrically from Edmonton that I will call for as well, and they'll self-submit and drive down to book to gig. Kira.
You were saying that sometimes you would submit an audition that you've got. So that means does each studio have a bank of the actors that have already worked with them?
Yeah.
Do you save? Do you have a file with my name on there somewhere?
I have a folder with your name on it. So the question is, I was mentioning sometimes we submit auditions, not demos for, and so the question was, do we have a file of people that, yes. So we have every audition that's ever happened at 6 Degrees, and I'm sure every other studio does too. And we'll submit stuff based on what's right for the project. So yes, Kira, I have a folder of you. Like we have a whole talent database, and I will go into this certain category. I'll go into union, female, this age range, whatever. Find Kira Bradley, and I have boom all your auditions. And I go, okay, where's that one where it was really good, where she did that nuanced thing that was, and then I'll grab that and send that as part of the thing. And even guys, sometimes like people have booked at 6 Degrees mid-workshop. It's like we're through, I think yeah, right after. And people have done it like mid, where it's like we're doing 3 Mondays, and between a Monday and a Monday, I'm like, that work that they did on that Monday was awesome. I'm going to send that to a client on Wednesday, and they go, I want that person. I go, okay, they're training right now. They might be a bit new. No, who cares? They're great. And so mid workshop, people have booked, because why not?
Now you mentioned the voice apps on your phone.
Yep.
Do you recommend auditioning using apps like that? Because everybody from VoiceBot to Paul Boucher are
Yep.
doing how to set up your own home studio.
Right.
So are these apps good enough?
Yes, they're totally good enough. For an audition, absolutely. Absolutely. The only thing you need to find is just some isolation. Like for me, when I audition, I go into my cold storage room in my house and I cover myself, with a couple jackets on, and I, that sort of thing. Or people go into their closet and find as long as you have some isolation. Like a car is okay if it's like in a garage or in a, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. Like just to find some so you're not hearing like room tone and the kids crying in the back and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, exactly. So it's funny, the home studio, there's a couple of things I want to talk about the home studio, because the home studio is tricky for a union member. That's tricky. Well, typically union contracts, like actor contracts, come through a production company. And so if it comes through a production company, well, that production company is going to hire, or through an agency that's going to hire a supplier like 6 Degrees, who's a studio, and then we're going to bring you in. And to me, it's tough to do union work from a home studio. In my experience, the people in this city and in Edmonton that do really well in voiceover from their home studio are non-union folks. I personally don't know how to negotiate that as a union member to have a home studio and do your work to clients, because the home studio is that you are an actor, but also a pretty skilled engineer. That you can send the files and you can do all that kind of stuff. Not everyone, but a lot of folks. And with that then comes more of a non-union thing, because you're either direct to company or you're pitching your wares out as a sort of a solo entity, not as part of a union. Brendan?
Maybe think about your home studio as more of just an evolution of your submission space.
Totally.
You're not trying to be
Absolutely.
a studio or an engineer, but you just want more control. And then you still send those raw WAV or MP3s over the wires.
Totally.
Because you respect that that's not your skill set.
Totally.
But it lets them know that you're taking, or that your submission is as good as you can get.
As good as you can get. And it's funny, Brendan, on that, because audio quality, like we notice when it's bad, and we can't send it because we're an audio house. So I can't accept a thing that's all fuzzy and whatever and send. So yes, and like to Brendan's point, that's amazingly generous. Like that's awesome to send us clean files where we go, this is great. We at 6 will also try to make your file sound better. So let's say we're doing these auditions and we're auditioning 20 people, and we've got 20 people self-submitting. We'll bring those self-submits into our session and try clean them up and make them sound consistent with everyone else, you know. And we also will hide location, because we don't want our clients and our people thinking, well, I'm going to hire them from there because they're better because they're from, you know. So we put everyone in the same bank and go this, you know. So we're trying to play on an even playing field with everyone. So that's both audio quality. You know, you want to try playing on an even playing field audio quality. And like I said, we don't notice when if it's fine, it's fine. We only notice when it's quite bad, and then we don't send it.
Question here. So we have some members who are watching through the live stream. So one of the members, his name is Alex. Alexi. He's asking, how much opportunity is there for kids?
Good question. Kids, it's funny. It's such a shot in the dark. Like, we don't know, to be honest. Kids, it tends to go in waves. It's funny. I will say, Alex, that when we get a call for kids, we need them, and we need them to be great, because anytime someone writes a young person into a script, they're typically the hero. They're typically the main character on the script, whether emotionally or they're the one with the offer or whatever. If they're going to put a kid in there, so. It's funny. There are opportunities for kids. They're just a little bit fewer and far between. And kids are tricky, because when you're asked to be a kid, your kidness is what you're asked for. You know, you're not asked to be a polished voice actor. You're wanting to be a kid. So mainly when we do workshops for kids and when I train kids, it's all about having them remain themselves back there and to be kids back there and not try be a grown-up or not try be a polished voice actor or be really slick on mic. The main skill for kids in voiceover is read, 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 read. My son is 6 and he wants to audition for voiceover really bad, and I'm using it as motivation to read. You know, learn to read, because really that's what I find kids falter in auditions is their reading. So for young people, learn to read, 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 and then just be yourself. And so yeah, there are opportunity more so on the creative side than the commercial side. But it is worth. It's funny. I started out as a kid. It's worth investing in as a kid, because if you can gain that skill early, it'll be something that even if you go to theater school, like through theater school, I voiced in it and it paid for books and stuff. So you know, keeping up that skill or starting that skill as a young person is awesome, impressive. I want to talk about listening, using your ears to learn. Is to you know, we watch shows and go, that's good work, you know, and we incorporate some stuff into our game, you know, or we're on set with someone and we're like, man, that was a good thing, and I'm gonna use that the way you know. So you know, we steal from people. We watch good work and recognize good work and are able to go, that's good work, that's bad work, and this is what I want to aspire to. But we don't listen to a lot of voiceover. I encourage you to do so. Audiobooks are one thing, you know, that's a thing, and again, I want to touch on them more in detail in a second. Don't turn commercials down. Turn them up, listen to them, and recognize what's good work and what isn't. You know, start to be a voiceover analyst and critic, and go, that wasn't good. I didn't believe that for a second. And then recognize when a voiceover does hit you. You know, when you're watching I guess it's tricky because a lot of us are on Netflix now and we don't get network commercials. But I'll tell you, having worked on a lot of them, there's some really good work happening. You know, and I guess that's why it's funny, when I was like strictly an actor, and that was my living, and it was for 20 some years, I still had a bit of and this is just full disclosure, I still had a bit of commercial work, you know, it's not as whatever. But when I started voicing and I started directing and I started whatever, I realized that, you know, agency, people want to affect people in the same way. You know, someone writes a screenplay. They want to tell. They have a story to tell, and they want to make a change. Want to affect people. And playwrights want to affect people, and they have a story to tell, and they want to. Well, it's the same thing commercially. That when a writer, when an agency is talking to a company or a brand, and again, because it's different creatively we know that someone's written a radio play, or I've adapted a thing for WordFest, like it's an existing piece. We're well invested. It's commercially where we falter, is that someone has really invested in that, and it's their story to tell, and it matters. And so I see when people come in. A really good friend of mine came into an audition and was solo in the booth and came in, and I was like, hey, how's it going? And it was like this, you know? And I'm like, what? You know, it's like, well, this is not, you know, this is. And of course she didn't book, you know? And those people that come in and invest and go, this matters to me. You know, I always tell this story about tires, right? So people say in workshops, they're like, well, I don't care about tires. And I say, me either. And I'm just using tires as an example. You know this story, Kelsey, probably recently. And I say, I don't care about tires either. But me as an actor investing in this, go, well, I care about my family. I care about getting home safely. I care that I'm a father of two. I want my kids to have their dad at the end of the night. And it's icy, and I'm driving from set, or I'm driving from Edmonton. And I care about you guys getting home safely. I care about your kids and your families and getting home. So when I go down that road, yeah, man, I care about tires. You know what I mean? Not that I'm going to get in there and be like, tires, man. You know, I'm not emoting about tires, but I'm invested and I care. And that translates, guys. It really reads when someone cares about what they're talking about and when someone doesn't. And when someone's just a talking head going, these are the words, and I'm just going to read them, and I got a beautiful voice, and I expect to book. Someone that comes in and is like, no, I care about this. They book. You know, there's a lot of that. So I guess I encourage you to respect the material, to respect the industry, and invest in it like you would any other. There's a growing excellent trend toward diversity in voiceover, which is awesome. So I want to talk about that for a second in terms of accents and diversity. So for a while, people would avoid voiceover for their accent, and avoid voiceover for their diversity, or the fact that maybe English might be a second language. And I encourage you to not. I encourage you to be brave and put yourself out there, because we're finding as we are on camera and on stage that the sensibilities are shifting. You know, and those friends and colleagues that we've had in the past that have moved to Toronto can stay here, or we're hoping they can stay here, because there's more opportunity. You know, for example, like we're getting asked, it's seemingly more and more for people that can speak other languages and people that have natural accents, not put on accents. You know, I've done voiceover, I've put on an accent, and those days are gone. I'm not, you know, they're gone. No longer do we ask people to put on an accent. We will search high and low for that accent because it's genuine and authentic. So
what accents are like popular or hiring? Just curious.
Well, it's funny, Kels. It seems like it goes, depending on who's doing what at any given time. So we had a commercial client looking for anything, like anyone with an accent, from anywhere, of anything, as long as it was natural.
Yeah.
And so that was, we just put it out like, and it's funny because again, then what we get back is a lot of accents, but not a lot of skill behind the mic.
Right.
And so I just want to bring all this together. Yeah. Exactly. Or we'll get a call for a different language, either for typically for like long form videos that are going elsewhere. So, you know, certain companies like will go, gee, we want this in English and we want this in German. Obviously, French is a big one. And for those folks in Edmonton, because there seems to be a bigger, or at least a more, a bigger French community in Edmonton, is like, email me, let me know who you are, because we are constantly looking for French, and we work with people who respect the French language, and that because often anything that we do, big work is English and French, and we want to give the same approach and the same value and the same everything to both of those languages, and it can sometimes be tricky to find in this market. People that have natural French accent, like Quebecois accents, that speak French, because even French speakers in Calgary don't speak French enough, seemingly, and so and so just folks that we know, it's just the language is just not there to the level it needs to be to voice something, because we're right here. You know what I mean? It's something to converse with your friends, but to voice something, it needs a little level of skill and specificity that we're lacking. So anyone that speaks French fluently, and maybe even if that's their first language, or if you speak another language, like, please email me and identify yourself to me, because we need you. And if you have an accent that's not English or French, and you're like, gee, is voiceover for me? Yeah, it is, because it's not just commercial work. There's a ton of creative work that's looking for characters, and that work's only growing. Audiobooks I want to touch on for a second, in that I find audiobooks to be a fascinating industry. I know some writers, and selling a novel's hard. Selling a novel is extremely difficult, and it's not very lucrative. And so I'm finding on the audiobook thing that audiobooks are a bit of a two-headed monster in this town, and I don't know everything about them, and but we at Six particularly are getting call from publishers. Publishers are contacting us, and that's where I've noticed that's where union members, you guys, are being asked to do audiobooks, is from publishers, because that's where the work comes. It's funny, like I've really recognized big writers, big name writers, want to pair their book to big name actors, and that's natural, and we see that all the time, where whoever, Stephen King's not going to come to Calgary to try voice his audiobook. And he's not going to go online to try find a voice. He's gonna approach his agent about finding an appropriate celebrity that can match his status, that could sell some books. And so we're finding that the audiobook thing. So we're finding like the stuff that's coming down from publishers is because of local writers. I'm constantly every day trying to pitch Random House on our local talent, to say, whatever you got going on from there, we have this that you guys don't have. No one in the world has our talent. So I say, great. We're trying to get more writers from out of town, and publishers from those bigger centers to voice here, to have access to you guys. But I'm finding that the audiobook in terms of like a solo effort is like the home studio, non-union, outbid each other kind of game, and so it's a very tricky road for a union member to do audiobooks, because a lot of writers want it done as cheaply as they can, because selling a book is often $20,000 over the life of a book a writer's going to make, so they don't want to spend a lot on the audio element. So again, I think much like animation, it's an area that I think we're trying to grow, and not just us, but every studio in town is trying to grow that work, and
Doesn't the author often do their own work?
And sometimes the author does their own work, exactly, or we'll do we'll it's funny, or we'll get a talent or an actor to do it at home. It's that kind of thing where now that's not to say that you guys can't reach out to try get some SAG-AFTRA and some US audiobook stuff, but it's a bigger pool.
What about CMA
CNIB books, again, I know that they have like that's largely, because it's a charitable organization, that's largely a volunteer thing, you know, where reading the newspaper to blind folks or reading this to record is largely by donation.
My dad used to do voiceover for AMI on volunteer basis.
On volunteer basis, exactly, and so that does not necessarily gonna feed you. But it's good practice, totally. It's all good practice, and it's funny because reading your book out loud is amazing practice, you know. And it's funny, guys, because we've had, you know, audiobooks. We've had people falter too, where it's like, great audiobook, great, but not everyone reading to yourself and reading out loud over hours and hours and hours and hours is not the same thing. Audiobooks are a serious grind, and I know from being on this side of the glass directing them, they're a grind to listen to, you know what I mean? They're a grind. It's a marathon. That's a lot of material. And these publishers, they know it's down to the word. They know exactly how fast a human being can read. They know exactly how fast it takes to voice. So it's like, you know, and for uni, it's 2-hour chunks, right? For fatigue and whatever else. So it's like 2-hour chunk, 2-hour chunk, 2-hour chunk, 2-hour chunk, you're done. And if you're not done, we're all losing money. Everyone's losing money if you're not done. And so, you know, those that do it well and often because they're so skilled at it, they can just bang it out.
It's super hard on your voice too.
It can be, absolutely, totally. Depending on the length of the book or the character asks. Sometimes it depends on you know, you're asked to shift very slightly. You know, and then my mom said, hey, don't make sure to do this. Or, you know, then my mom said, make sure to, you know, whatever you're asked to do can be pretty hard on your voice too. But it's funny how the industry feeds itself is right. And you know, it's funny, like I've done self-producing projects through ACTRA and it's actually not that hard. And those of you that have, you go, gee, it's not that hard, and you guys know we have an executive director right now that wants people to work. Tina wants people to work, wants it easy for people to work. You know, is moving things under, like bringing indie projects into resume agreements, bringing things to ACTRA members that weren't at before. It can be the same thing with audiobooks. It can be the same thing with creative audio material you know, I created this audio piece that went, well, can we do it through them? Oh yeah, and we'll do, you know, this one little concession and this rate, and I go, wow, we can afford that, and it's awesome, and we're all working. And we're all not only working, we're all furthering our skill and trying to build a community. So, you know, have your independent projects be voicing of your novel or of your short story, or you know, take the play you're working on and create a radio play out of it and produce it and get into this business. You know, kind of invest in this medium. Exactly, man. You know, it's funny because those folks in those bigger centers are doing just that. They're doing just that. It's funny. So I liken it to Vancouver on a theatrical level. Vancouver theatrically lost the Vancouver Playhouse, and there's the Arts Club, and there's Bard on the Beach. Well, because of that, it sprung up a ton of independent theaters and a ton of people doing self-driven work. And that self-driven work is being allotted all over the country and touring all over the country. And ATP just did a thing from a self-driven work from, it's like, it's that self-driven work and that bottom push from all of us kind of helping that industry really does help. And you know, I'm happy to kind of have this forum to talk about it because it's so far been in small eye drops of workshops where people that want to take a workshop are invested in it, and I'm able to go, hey, you 8. Awesome, let's do this, and let's, you know, but it helps if we're all in that same boat and we're all pushing that medium forward. Diversity, accents, demos, community. Oh yeah. Sorry, then I'll get to listening.
Just, we're talking about different aspects of the industry.
Yep.
I know that Edmonton has a great reputation for documentary.
Totally.
Are we likely to see a little bit of that coming to Calgary?
It depends. I mean, it's, again, I wish these communities would cross-pollinate a little bit more. Are you talking about Edmonton documentaries coming to Calgary, or what? Or
Just a little bit more of the work kind of filtering down south.
it's tough. I mean, I think Edmonton would argue that some work needs to filter up north, you know, and so I don't know. I mean, the cities seem to have their niches right now. Is that I agree that Edmonton seems to do really well in like documentary and creative podcast, all this kind of stuff, where Calgary does a little bit better commercially. And so I don't know. I don't know if it's niche to that city. I will say this. I know studios or agencies in Edmonton, like not talent agencies, but like marketing agencies and whatnot, tend to want to, like we work with some agencies from Edmonton. I know other places in Calgary do, but they also, agencies also go to Vancouver because it's a nice couple days. You know what I mean? It is. Like we from Alberta, we know that. We all go, well, sure, a couple days in Vancouver's not too bad. And so agencies sometimes do the same. So I don't know, sometimes that work, instead of filtering down, filters over, as it does for any medium, like that's just a product of where we are and who we are. But I don't know if Calgary will see that documentary work until we're just creating documentaries here. You know what I mean? Like we're just doing it on our own. Exactly.
I was wondering if you'd seen in your work recently a little bit more coming to you.
No, what I'm seeing is commercial work from Edmonton more so coming down south, as opposed to going to Vancouver, which is great for all of our studios here. Yeah, again, the more that we can self-sustain in Alberta, the better. I want to talk about listening too. So when I said I wanted to mention too in terms of listening to voiceover on television stuff and find out what impacts you. Also, guys, explore other agents. In that, listen. Go on websites of agents in Toronto and Vancouver and listen to their voice actors. Like go on, and again, the big agents aren't, I mean, it's all online. Like go online and look up in Toronto, like the characters, obviously. The characters, one of the biggest agency probably in Canada. The Toronto characters thing. You know, go to AMI and Noble Kaplan Abrams and all these like Toronto agencies, and just go to their voice bank and just go look at who they have, who do they have, and just listen to some people. You'll find some celebs there and whatever. You'll find some, but just kind of listen through and go, what are the sensibilities? What are they doing? Similar with Vancouver, because it's fascinating, guys. As you guys know, Vancouver and Toronto are two completely different cities and different approaches, voiceover-wise. Totally different. And so it would be interesting to listen to both those, to go on and, you know, in Vancouver, obviously, characters as well, Red the Agency or LLA, like all these agencies, go in and just start to go, okay, I'm just going to explore who are the people that have these demos on these big websites. There used to be Voice Bank, which was great. It got purchased by voices.com or whatever, and then it's a different thing. So that doesn't exist. But also, it's available to you guys. You don't have to sign up or anything. Like the voice section of Casting Workbook. If you just Google Voice by Casting Workbook, boom, and you'll be able to go, gee, let's listen to all these. But there's in the States, all that kind of stuff. Just good talent with their demos. Yeah.
Just a question back to the accents. What does the world think of Albertan accents?
That's a really good question. So the question was, in terms of accents, what does the world think of Alberta accents? So it's funny, those folks that I said like kind of compete on a national level, and those folks in this town that voice nationally and whatnot, have a very generic accent. Is that we want to try get away from our regional accent, because people are used to now, like the sensibilities are, you know, we're more used to East, like Toronto or Standard American, than we are our own. And when we hear it sounds too local. Is that clients go, no, they want a voice that can span Canada. And so we want to lose those isms that are local to Alberta. That's a really good question, and that can be a tricky thing to do until you hear yourself. Until you hear yourself and then listen to a few other demos and start to go, oh, I see, the way I say that, you know. Having said that, again, there's always exceptions to every rule, right? So there's that. We want to have a sort of the Canadian equivalent of Standard American. right? But here in this market, because we are Alberta and we are who we are, we do a lot of ag work in this market. You know, you did that on camera thing. We worked on, like, there's all the studios and production companies, we do a lot of agriculture stuff. We don't want to, we don't need to like have a prairie Alberta accent. What we need to have is that sensibility and that Alberta heart, you know, and passion and drive to work hard, and we know what it's like to have crap on our boots and to be outside for 20 hours. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of feel we want. It's funny, you know, on that ag work, it's amazing to me that we get local Edmonton and Calgary people coming in to audition for ag stuff that put on a Texas accent. You know, here in Alberta, and I'm like, what? Where are we? So, you know, it's funny that like clients ask for, they call it like, we want the Alberta swagger, we want a bit of that kind of ease and whatever, but we don't want someone talking like that or whatever. It's weird, you know. So I'd say err on the side of a standard Canadian, and then when you're asked to do that kind of stuff, tap into the guts of you that's Albertan, not the voice of you that's Albertan, you know. Yeah, I can't remember where I was when the question came. I think it was about listening to the agents and what. Oh, voice by casting workbook, and you can go in and find out, like, dig into the States and listen to some of those auditions and listen to Toronto and Vancouver, and just start to train your ear to what it is, because, you know, it is its own thing. Voiceover is its own thing. And as I say, the truth meter is pulled very tight, and so people can sound disingenuous very quickly and fake very quickly, and so it's very easy to go, that's bad, that's not good, I don't believe it, I don't buy it, I don't, you know. So if you can tap into that level of truth, also having that a bit of the experience, and it's funny, guys, we just don't get the reps. You know, I always talk with young, it's reps. Like, you know, you talk about the 10 years of silence and the 10,000 hours and all that kind of stuff, and that's real training. And when we don't get the reps, when we do get behind the mic, we're just go, what do we do again? You know, it's like relearning every time. So read out loud, audition on your, like, put stuff on your phone and listen to it. Email, like, please introduce yourself to me, like, email me and whatever, and even submit something. Why not? Submit something and go, hey, I'm so-and-so, and this is what I did. What do you think? You know, and I'll either be like, you need to get in here and audition, you know, or hey, you might want to consider some training, either here or elsewhere, or you might want to, you know, because some folks too, people come at voiceover from different angles, right? And people come at it from a broadcast standpoint, which can be very difficult to get sort of a real, kind of a real individual happening behind the mic, because they've been trained in technique. You know, it's funny, a lot of flight attendants will seek out voiceover, but there's a sort of a standard read. You know, there's a sort of a thing that you do when you're learning how to be a flight attendant that becomes muscle memory in how you speak, and so it can become very, and so this is why actors rule, is because they don't approach things like from here up, which is what like voice talent does, and what broadcasters do, and what you know, people that are only been trained in just their voice, they've been trained in a technique or a style or a manner of speaking, where we've been trained to give our guts and give our stuff and give ourselves, and so even something as simple as an ad for a car, you'd be surprised how much acting is required, you know, and not just come on down to Crazy Crazies and get whatever, you know. Does anyone remember Crazy Crazies? So you're of a certain age. Any other questions? Because what I guess I'll ask a question is that what what do you guys need from us in terms of the voiceover industry, in terms of helping you guys invest in this industry or get into it? What do you need from someone like me who casts and directs? Like what?
Well, I thought the point of you saying what you sound, like listening to what you sound like, because I've been to lots of audio auditions and I have no idea what that sounded like.
What you sound like.
Yeah, like
right.
no clue what I sounded like to the other people on
right.
the side of the window. So
right.
That's a really valid point. It'd be interesting
it's,
to know.
Well, no, I think it's, well, no, Gordon, I disagree. I think it's paramount to your success. I think even when you're in session, let's say you come audition, we meet now and you thing, and I'm like, you're brilliant, come audition, and I'm sure you are. So you come audition and you book. So it's such a valuable tool to hear yourself. Whereas even mid-session when you've done a couple of takes, and now they're editing, and we always make sure that you can hear what we're editing. And I know that you're listening going, oh, okay. I see it. People go, oh, now that I hear me, I get it. And if I'm given another one, I know to do this. And then 9 times out of 10, it's like, okay, thanks, we got it. And you're like, no, but I want to give that one. So listening to yourself is huge. And so if you can record yourself, because I think we as actors, we have a good inner truth. I hope. Maybe not in the moment, that's subjective, right? We're all kind of, but when we watch ourselves or listen to ourselves, we're probably our own worst critic in terms of going, didn't buy that, didn't buy that, didn't buy that, which is a great thing, which is a good thing, which keeps our standard and our bar high. And so listen to yourself and critique yourself, judge it, go, I didn't buy that at all, and I don't for a second buy that. Let me do it again. Oh, I thought I was sounding quite friendly here. I actually sound quite down. I didn't know that until, exactly, you're when you, because it's tough, especially starting out to know what's translating. As you say, you kick something out there and you get it back. So for example, one of the specs that we're seeing more and more is, and because people don't know what to write, is they're writing, for all this big TV stuff, like we did this thing, and it was, they wanted, that the spec was like, an actor, storyteller with gravitas, can bring weight to the project, right? And let's say the first line was, we know you, kind of thing. And all the auditions, like from the 90% of the auditions we got were, we know you, we know you, we know that you're, and because people are trying to achieve this like gravitas, dramatic. Oh, that's what it was, dramatic. Like an actor, dramatic read with gravitas, whatever, and people like dig right into it. And in fact, in audio, it's the complete opposite. And this is where we need to sort of understand the industry to go, okay, so this is an on-camera piece that's asking for weight and gravitas and dramatics and poignancy. Well, gee, there's also the picture and the music that's going to do 95% of that work. In fact, 98% of that work. And if we try muscle a dramatic performance on top of that, it's just so over the top that it doesn't even, it's kind of laughable, And so what they're actually asking for is something quite simple, right? That plays into and lets the picture and the music be the hero and the emotion and the dramatics. And so, it's just finding out that sort of sensibility around this world. And it can be a little bit of a tricky navigation off the top, but I find once people lock in, man, they lock in and are awesome. And I will say, guys, that, which is why I want more people doing it in this market, is I'm consistently impressed by this community. And I'm sure we all are in different ways. We watch a certain thing, we watch a certain thing. And that's not to say we're also not disappointed in this community once in a while, right? That's okay. It's an opportunity to learn and get better. But I listen to the auditions from out of town, and I listen to the auditions in Calgary, and I go, man, if we could just be a little freer and looser, if we were just a little bit more confident and a little bit more prepared, we would be so good. because a lot of the folks in Toronto and Vancouver have become those people, you know? They've worked a lot, they've gone through there, they've cut their chops non-union, they've finally made it into the union, they're doing it, and then they've become voice people. So yeah, their auditions are loose and they're confident and they're engaging and they're fun and they're this and that, or one thing, they're polished and whatever, but they're not as real as us. They're not as human, they're not as textured, as layered. And so there's an opportunity here as I see that we start to get better and we start to win some things. I just want us now to like just knock that door down, and just because the opportunity is there. There's enough work and there's good work and there's enough good people here to have our own good community that we can send out. Because that's ultimately, as a Calgarian, as a guy in this town, apart from my studio affiliation, whatever it is, I want us to go out. You know what I mean? More so, I want to send Calgary to the masses. Like much like we're now trying to grab bigger work from all of Canada and bring it here. I think we should be working there. There's no reason why you guys shouldn't be auditioning for gigs happening vocally in Vancouver and Toronto. And it would be tough to do on your own. It would be something that your agent would have to get behind you on, and that you would be affiliated with a studio on, because you'd need somewhere to voice and somewhere to work. And so, I know personally, and for me and for Six, that we wanna send you guys out there, and there are folks in this market that we do. There are folks that we go, gee, you're really good and consistent, and we use you a lot, and we think everyone should use you a lot. So we're promoting them. We're promoting them to Toronto agencies. We're promoting them to Toronto production companies, to Vancouver production companies down the States, because we value good work and we want to help. And it would be great if this talent all went out, then work's going to come to us. It's also selfish, you know what I mean? But it's selfish in a good way, in a community building way.
Like right now, I'm self-represented. Do you recommend me like finding out from ACTRA perhaps where all the studios are in town, emailing them, introducing myself?
Absolutely, absolutely. And like me personally, I have a big indie list, you know, that I'm like, here's the folks agency that I know and whatever, and there's some folks that I just don't know who their agents are. You know what I mean? And so I'm constantly searching, and some agent websites are easier to find their talent than others or whatever. But yeah, if people don't know, please introduce yourself to me, to everyone, and say, here I am, and I'm available, and I'm a union member, and I'm this and that. And
are the studios in like Vancouver, et cetera, open to that as well, or do you really have to sort of get an agent first?
So the question was, should we send stuff to Vancouver, like sending stuff out in terms of ourselves? I mean, why not? The thing is with voiceover, with that, like your agent might, like an agent here is probably not going to rep you in Vancouver. You know what I mean? And it depends on the agent, but typically they won't. You know, you'll get a Vancouver agent for that. And even like voice actors in the States have agents per region. It's like, this is my Pacific Northwest agent. This is my Pacific Southwest agent. This is my, like, it's crazy. Where I'll find one person, I'm like, oh, well, I thought they were with them. Oh, and them, and all across the country. They just have 7 agents all across the nation.
So now, can you do voiceover work for an American company while being Canadian without a visa?
Good question. So, yeah. So the question was, can you do work in the States, like for an American company without a visa? It's funny, you're not working in the States.
No, exactly.
So that's why. I mean, like I've done union work in the States. I know we've hired union members from the States. Like this, just that seems to be I don't know if it's a loophole or whatever, but we're working on Canadian soil, on Canadian material. So we. And it's funny, like everything, like the production's being done here. You're an American company. American companies hire us all the time. Yeah, absolutely. What? Wow. Okay. Any other questions?
I got one more.
Yeah, man.
I'm just curious, as if a person chooses to work with an agency, how do you guys feel about a person working with multiple agencies? Do you like to keep people with your agency to push them out there? Or does that
Oh,
person
well,
have
we're
to
not
go
an
out
agency.
locally?
We're not an agency.
Okay.
Like, we're just a studio.
Right.
So you're like,
Like you're a casting director.
yep.
So go to you, but go to all the other casting directors as well.
Totally.
Yes, okay.
I want you to work, man.
Same as, yeah.
Absolutely. I don't need you to be loyal to 6 Degrees. In fact, we're not. Like,
Just get my agent to go to all the.
exactly. Exactly. And it's funny because, you know, a lot of studios that happen outside are they have like tons in the US have a bank of talent.
Right.
And that's it. Well, that's limiting. We don't want to do that. Like, you know, we did this thing for I can't remember what it was for, but we found a guy in his basement in Alabama. He's blind, dude. He's awesome. But we found him. You know, like and so we don't have a voice bank. We want to cast the best person for the role we can.
So just to continue on that, in the ACTRA, is all the voiceover casting agents, are they listed?
I'm the only voiceover casting director, but you can send them to studios. Like studios, they do their own casting. They just don't have a casting director. You know what I mean? But like, so I think I'm the only like voice casting director on the ACTRA website. But do send them to studios. And again, I don't know how much studios do union work. I don't know. Like I don't know how much all the other studios do everything else. Again, that's just your own research there. But you got a great voice, man. You need to call me. Yeah. And the thing is, I think everybody, and I will say, guys, I think everybody has a great voice. I really do. Like I just dig voices and people and the diversity of voices that book and do stuff. It's incredible to me how diverse it is when we cast. It's crazy. So Edmonton, thank you. I can't thank you guys enough. I really appreciate you being here, and it does mean a lot to me. So, guys, my email, I'm christian@6degrees.ca. That's my email. If you guys have further questions, if folks in Edmonton have further questions that you weren't able to get to, just email me at christian@6degrees.ca. Yeah, that's SIX degrees, not the number 6, SIXdegrees.ca, and I'm happy to answer any other further questions you might have or whatever. And thanks so much.
Are you sticking around for a few minutes?
Yeah, I'll be here for